Today, we're going to be testing out the new super agent, which is Suna. We'll be comparing that versus Manus and Genspark, which are two other super agents. Now, these are very different to coding with APIs and that sort of thing. They can build apps, tools, websites, games, etc. They can research. They're fully connected to the internet. Now, what we're going to do with Suna is we're going to be testing out for some of these different prompts that it can do. For example, it can automate. And you can see some of the demos here in terms of how it works, etc. They do have a free plan, but it's very limited, all right? So inside the pricing here, you can see the pricing comparisons. It's not bad compared to Manus. I would say genuinely straight off the bat, Genspark is a bit cheaper. So let's test. So to get started, you're just going to sign in, then you're going to go to your dashboard. By the way, this is also open source, so you can download it and then install it locally. The one thing I'm going to say about that is that you need a lot of APIs to get this installed. You need the API keys for Redis, Anthropic, Supabase, because it's connected to so many different tools, if that makes sense. So there's 4 different components when you're building out with it, which is something to bear in mind here. Now, we'll take an example prompt from the GitHub and we'll test that inside the dashboard, which I would say is much easier if you're not technical than setting it up locally. And for example, here, we're going to run this prompt. So I'm going to use the exact same prompts that I've used previously on Manus and other super agents, including Genspark. And we'll say research Julian Goldie and create an SEO agency website about him. Now, what I'll show you in a second is the outputs from Manus and also from Genspark. I just want to test this works first of all, because one of the problems that I was having earlier on when I was testing this on a live stream, you can watch it back on the YouTube channel, is that Suna went into maintenance, then wouldn't work when I upgraded, but it seems to be working now. So just bear in mind, like it might be in the beta period and it sporadically works and sometimes doesn't. One thing I do really like, which Manus doesn't do and Genspark doesn't do last time I tested it, is that it gives you a really nice checklist for the project when it plans it out. So we're going to separate this into 4 different phases: research, website planning, website development, and testing and deployment. And then you can tick off all the boxes right here. And I think that's a great way to just see, okay, here's what it's working on so far. So we can create files, as you can see as well. So you can also do web searches, you can create files, you can deploy websites, you can build and code for you directly. I'm pretty sure if you gave it your login details, it could probably do something crazy like go onto LinkedIn or Twitter and start doing all sorts of stuff there for you. So if you want to see, okay, what are the outputs versus Genus and Genspark, let me show you an example. These links are inside the AI Profit Boardroom. If you want to see an example of what Genspark can build, it's pretty amazing, to be fair. This was built with Genspark. It found the images for me, did the research on me. I didn't give it any prompting apart from like just research Julian Goldie, and then it created this full-blown website for me, which is super impressive, to be honest. That's better than something I've created inside Visual Studio Code or inside Bolt, etc. You can see it's even created like custom images and source those from the website. So it was pretty amazing what I can do with Genspark. If you want to compare that versus something like Manus, which is another AI super agent, which can do very similar things, this was more basic, right? So you can see here there's no custom images. It's all a bit generic. It doesn't source real testimonials, etc. So let's see what we get back from Suna. I think it is going to take a while. So what I'm going to do is just in the meantime, I'm going to open up a new tab of Suna and we'll give this a cheeky whirl with something else, all right? Now, you might be wondering, okay, how many tabs can you have open and that sort of thing? You seem to be able to have as many tabs as you want open. The biggest problem here is that you actually get billed based on minutes. So for example, if we check the price in here, you can see we have a minute usage on the agent, which means the more we go back and forth with the agent, the more complex the task, the longer it takes, etc., then the more we're going to get rinsed on credits until we probably have to upgrade to the $50 a month plan. But let's see how that goes. So right now we've got the super agent creating the website over here. We'll see how that goes. What's interesting is it's actually struggling to scrape the internet and go onto my website. So you can see here it's saying I'm encountering some issues with accessing Julian Goldie's website directly. Let's approach this by checking his About Me page specifically, and you can see the outputs here, so you can actually scroll through and see, okay, here's all the steps that it's done. The other thing that I would say that's really interesting about all these tools is, have you ever noticed something similar about the UI on Manus and Suna is so similar? It's crazy, right? Genspark is a bit different, and I would say as well, Genspark's quite interesting because you can generate videos, you can actually do outbound calls, which I haven't seen anywhere else. And also, you get quite a nice UI in terms of here's what other people have built using the same process. And you get, so I would say the UI on Genspark is actually, number 1, better, but number 2, it actually has a lot more freedom versus using something like Suna. And The other thing that I would say here is that it does take a long time for Suna to reply, right? So it is going to rinse the credits undeniably when it comes to building stuff out. So what we're going to do in the meantime is we will grab another prompt from our Genspark tests here. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to say to Genspark, create an AI growth calculator. So we'll grab this prompt right here, and then I'm going to plug that inside Suna. As you can see, we'll plug that in and we'll see what we get back. There's a part of me that feels like Genspark just absolutely crushed it and it's very hard to beat that, but we'll see what we get back in a sec. It's got a lot to live up to. This is a really nice calculator, as you can see. So what I'm also going to do in the meantime is just set the stopwatch and see how long it actually takes to complete the task, because it does seem a little bit slow when I'm testing out Suna and how long it's going to take. So it's planning out the AI growth calculator over here. We can also see, for example, inside Suna, it's now creating the HTML file for the homepage of Julian Goldie's SEO agency website. So that's exciting. I'm interested to see what we get back there. Now, if you want to set up Suna AI locally, there's a really good article by apidog.com. And you can see essentially what you would do is once you've got the GitHub requirements, you need to set up a Daytona account, get an API key from there. Then you're going to get an API key from either OpenAI or Claude. You also need a Tavily API key for search results and also a Rapid API key as well. These are optional, but they're going to help a lot in getting better outputs. So we're 5 minutes into building out the AI growth calculator. We can see what we've done so far. So we've got the style CSS, index HTML, and script.js as well, which is great. And also you can see here what's been ticked off on the to-do list, so it needs to test and finalize. So it's pretty cool how you can see like the progress of the project so far, where you're up to, and what's next in the project. I really like that. It did have some problems setting up the test local server for viewing the calculator. So you can see here it's been struggling. It's been struggling like that for a minute. It seems to be working on something, but I'm not sure what. What we could actually do is just grab the index and everything else and just copy and preview that before we actually test it out. So you could, if you wanted to save minutes, like you could actually just stop the agent there, stop the timer, and then preview it on something like Liveweave, right? So you can take the HTML, plug that in, then grab the JS, plug that in, and then finally you're going to get the style.css file as well. We can grab that, plug it into Liveweave, and there you go. And you can see here it's still struggling to deploy there. It seems to keep failing over and over again, which of course rinses more credits. So it's had 4 different attempts at trying to deploy, and it's just really struggled, which is not great. But if we try it on Liveweave, so this is the code that we got from Suna on Liveweave, we can test this out, and it actually works. The design is quite nice as well, to be fair. I wouldn't say it's as good as Genspark. So for example, if we compare side by side Genspark versus a tool created by Suna, which one has the best design? I'm definitely going to go with Genspark, to be fair. And also Genspark deployed it like first time round. And also it included loads of personalized information about me. And also it looks like the deployment of the tool just didn't seem to work and it actually gave up. So you can see here, eventually it didn't even deploy the HTML, it just gave us the files. And then we have to deploy that ourselves, right? So I'm just going to try and deploy this on Suna instead, on the subdomain, but I don't think it's going to work because it seems to keep failing over and over again. And we're 8 minutes in now, so it's taking quite a long time to generate the outputs. For me personally, I think in terms of easy use, in terms of convenience, in terms of speed, I think Genspark is winning. Manus, at least it does deploy on a subdomain when we ask it to do tasks, but Suna seem to struggle. Always seem to have to go back and forth with it and rinse out more minutes, right? Bear in mind, like you only get 120 minutes on a $20 a month plan, which makes things very difficult if you're trying to use this AI super agent, right? So it's come back to us actually now, and it has deployed that. Let's check this out. I've clicked on the link. Let's see if this works. Nah, it's not working. So it's given us a link to click here for the subdomain. So it says the AI growth calculator has been successfully deployed and is now live at this address. We click on it. It doesn't work, mate. We're on the clock here and we've got something that doesn't work, and it took us 10 minutes to go back and forth. And again, like we did say, deploy this, plus it struggled like 5 different times. So it failed on the task. It did create the code, but you'd be better off just going into ChatGPT and asking for the code and it'd be faster. Let's see how many minutes we've rinsed now. So we've actually used half our usage, like you can see. So we've rinsed 54 minutes out of 120 already. We've only really got 50% left of our usage, and we have something that doesn't really work. Let's go into the Julian Goldie SEO agency project and we'll see where we're at now. And again, it's failed to deploy. and it's still going back and forth right there and rinsing the minutes. So it just seems so far. I know there's a lot of hype about Suna. I know a lot of people want it to work and people get excited about these AI agents. But honestly, the best from what I've seen so far, I'm still going to put Genspark at 8 or 9 out of 10. I'd put Manus at probably like a 6 or a 7 out of 10. And then Suna, it seems like it's still in beta, but I would say it's probably going to be like maybe a 5 out of 10 just because it won't deploy, but it can create the code. And I think with the billing, you're going to have to inevitably upgrade to like the $50 a month plan to get any sort of practical use out of it. Because obviously we've rinsed half our minutes now and we don't have a working growth calculator. We don't have a working website, and that could go back and forth for ages. You can see it actually just keeps failing to deploy everything. The URLs inside the deployment just don't seem to work, like you can see right here. So thanks so much for watching. If you want to learn about the best AI super agents, how to use them, etc., you can get all of my courses on Open, Manus AI, Genspark, Owl, etc. These are all alternatives. Even Code and computer use is a pretty good option as well as an alternative. And also, we've got a full 50-minute training on me using Suna live right there inside the AI Profit Boardroom, along with all of our best prompts, tips, workflows, etc. So feel free to get that. This community just focused on making money and saving time with AI, and it's really what inspires me to keep going out there and testing new things and that sort of thing. So feel free to get that inside the AI Profit Boardroom, link in the comments description. And if you want to get more free leads, traffic, and sales from Google and other AI search engines, feel free to book in a free SEO strategy session. On this free SEO strategy session, you're going to get a custom tailored game plan to you, your business, your website, to grow your business with SEO directly from Google and other AI search engines. Additionally, you can just ask any questions live on the course. If you're struggling with anything SEO related, if you want to get more traffic, more customers, etc., feel free to book that in, link in the comments description. And I'll see you on the next one. Cheers, bye-bye.